Mr. Ross. Thank you so much for being my show. And today our topic will be China in the year of 2022. So what will be your general impression of China in the year of 2022? Like what progress has been made this year at national level and what difficulties are being faced?
Well, the most striking thing about the situation is that China's come through very successfully through the year 2022, when a large part of the rest of the world is in absolute getting crisis and chaos. I mean, if you look at starting, for example, in the West, where I am, you've had the worst inflation for 40 years. The economic growth has slowed by half, and there's a major war going on in the Ukraine. If you compare the situation in China, China's come successfully through the COVID pandemic, which was a very serious challenge. There's only slightly over 5,000 deaths in China, in mainland China, compared to 4 million in the rest of the world, and over 1 million in the United States. China's economic growth is, if we take the 3 years of the pandemic, which means that China's economy has grown 3 times as fast as the United States. So the main thing which comes through is that China has continued to go forward very satisfactorily, not with no difficulties, because obviously there were difficulties to deal with COVID. What are the difficulties? Well, I think the difficulties mainly come from the rest of the world. The world economy in the West is heading into a recession in 2023, and COVID has still not been brought under control. So there are quite considerable external risks from the point of view of China.
For China and the CPC, the 20th National Congress of the CPC is a major event in the year of 2022. And the report of the Congress already planned the China's development for the next 5 years and beyond. I'm sure you already read about the content of the report. So, Mr. Ross, is there anything in the content that impressed you in the report? And how do you think it will influence China and even the world?
Well, impress in this case would be to understate the situation. What has happened with China, which is registered at the 20th Congress, is the biggest economic and social miracle in human history. So the way that I look at it internationally, I know there are many domestic aspects to the 20th Party Congress. But looking at it from an international angle, the decisive thing is China is making the transition to a high-income economy. Now, this poses new challenges because the requirements of people living in a high-income economy are much more complicated than those who are living in a poor and undeveloped country. With poor country, the most important thing can be how to have enough to eat, how to find a proper house, etc. China's solved those problems. But it means that, for example, the development of education, the development of culture, the development of leisure, and what is therefore very striking is what the 20th Party Congress summarizes and what it projects, which is by 2035, China will achieve the level of what you might call average of high-income economies. It won't yet have quite reached the level of the United States or something like that, but it will be roughly comparable, let's say, to Portugal or Spain today in Europe. That's West European standard. This is amazing, absolutely incredible. So the 20th Party Congress solved how to do this. I mean, this is the biggest improvement in the largest number of people in human history. I'm not trying to say that to flatter China, it's just a statement of fact.
The report also, mentioned the Global Security Initiative and Global Development Initiative. And how do you see the significance of these initiatives or solutions proposed by China in building a community of the future for humanity and a sustainable, peaceful development of the world?
Yes, at the Congress, I'm particularly struck, as I say, there are many domestic aspects which someone in China will notice more than I, but I saw 3 key issues. First is translated into English as the common destiny of humanity or common fate of humanity. The second is the question of common prosperity. And the third is the question of building an eco-civilization. These are 3 big themes which come out. These are absolutely crucial in the present situation because, unfortunately, the United States is going in the opposite direction. China's developing the common prosperity. I think this is extremely important because there's no point in having economic development for its own sake. In the US, there is what economic growth occurs the benefits go almost exclusively to the top 10% of the population. And then on the question of eco-civilization, unfortunately, the United States is by far the most important, biggest per capita emitter of CO2 amongst the major economies. And it's not doing nearly enough to deal with this, whereas China's leading the world in renewable energy. So therefore, the themes which come out of the 20th Party Congress are absolutely striking from the point of view of addressing the most burning questions which can confront the world. And the whole world would be a much better place if people could get within the framework of understanding that we're all in the same boat, as they put it. Somebody put it very well at a recent meeting. They said, if you're on a ship, there's no point in looking after your own cabin very nicely if the ship is going to sink. And you've got to make sure that the whole ship doesn't sink. And therefore, that's what China addresses to the common destiny of humanity. And I wish the rest of the world, particularly the United States, would adopt the same approach.
The report also proposed that China will promote high-level opening up. So from the perspective of an economist, Mr. Ross, what are your expectations for China's high-level opening up after the 20th National Congress of the CPC? And how do you think it will influence global economic recovery?
Well, there's two fundamental trends. The US is putting forward increasingly protectionist measures, and China is continuing down the path of globalization. Now, most countries benefit greatly from globalization, but in order to maintain the open character of the world economy, particularly for developing countries, you've got to have a powerful economy which is committed to globalization and opening up. And that's what China is. Fortunately, its economy is now large enough that it can provide a practical alternative to the United States. And that's why China has become by far the most important goods trading nation in the world. And that's greatly beneficial to other countries because they're not going along with the protectionism of the United States. They rightly want to benefit from globalization, and China gives them a practical ability to do so.